Please don't.
Lee, starting with one of your old sides, Aberdeen, just how much will that Scottish Cup win give them a lift coming into this new season?
Yeah, I think it will. It'll give them a massive boost. You've seen obviously the celebrations after it up in Aberdeen looked incredible. It's been a long time coming, a Scottish Cup up there. So I think they can only take positives out of that. Having been beaten a really good Celtic team that done really well through the season. Everybody says it wasn't a great season because of that last day, but it was. They done really well. They've done really well in the Champions League. They obviously won the double, and Aberdeen pipped them for the Scottish Cup. So I think they need to come off the back of that and have the momentum to then kick on in the season. Yeah.
Guaranteed group stage European football is obviously huge for the club, but with that it brings extra games and whatnot. How tough is that going to be to balance, and does that mean more bodies needed in the door?
Yeah, I think it does. But also, I've spoken about this before, I think we as a nation, we need to get better at obviously the whole journey around being in Europe, having whether it's different weeks leading up to it, different training days, whatever it is. We need to get better at adjusting to being in Europe, because it has taken its toll over our teams over the past few seasons, and I think we need to get better at it. And I think there is, obviously we've got so many sports scientists and people that look into that, but as players I think you want to play in games at that stature, and I think it's going to be tough for Aberdeen, but I think we will eventually, as a nation, as clubs in our country, I think we will get better at it.
One of your other old teams, you could be here all day with all the teams. I mean that in a nice way. Falkirk obviously promoted back-to-back promotions in the top flight now. How do you think they're going to do? Is it going to be tough for them, or do you think they'll go through a week in a purple patch again?
I think they'll be the surprise package. I do. I think they've went back-to-back, obviously winning leagues. I think they'll need a couple of experienced ones. Obviously Brian Graham getting in there will be a massive help, because it gives them a different dimension how to play against teams, because I think obviously their second games against Livingston, they want to do a job over David Martindale, who done a job over them last season. I don't think that Falkirk beat them last season. I think they had to tweak their style of play, because Falkirk have got a definite style of play and they want to play football, but sometimes when teams mix it up with them, they need to change, and they weren't quite there last season. I think Brian Graham will give that different dimension, who can ruffle up centre halves and his experience. But I think John's already said it, he needs a couple more in the door, 2 or 3 possibly. But they have got a nucleus of players that know exactly the style John wants them to play in. And I think if they stick to that, if they stick to their guns, I think they'll do really well.
They've also got a core group of players, who've done it through the last couple of seasons too. How important is that kind of team spirit, if you like, more than anything else?
I think it is. 100%. And that's what's the nucleus of players are all the same. They've been the same over the past few seasons. I think John's recruited really, really well over the seasons, and I think they've got really good players who know exactly how John wants to play. So you've seen the celebrations after the 2 league wins over the last couple of years, and you see there's a real togetherness in the club there. And obviously I've not even mentioned Scott Arfield signing on again. That's a massive coup for Falkirk going in, because he's experienced it before, and it's his boyhood club who he started with, who he'll probably finish his career with, and he loves it there. So I think that was a big boost for them last season, him getting in there, and I think him signing on again is a massive coup for Falkirk.
When you say they could be their surprise package, I mean, what are you thinking? Is will their aim just to be avoid the drop, and do you see them doing that quite comfortably?
Yeah, I think their aim is to stay up in the league, but I think they'll be quite confident. I think Tony Docherty done it with Dundee when they first came up. We got top 6, and it was a brilliant achievement for them. So I think Falkirk, yes, they'll say they just want to stay in the league, but I think they'll be a sneaky eye on top 6. I do think that, because there's always a team that not sneaks in there, deserves it over the piece. Like St Mirren have done it the last couple of years and done really well and deserved it. But you've got your group of, there's different leagues within the league, in my opinion, and I think Falkirk will want to try and aim for that top 6.
Do you think teams already in the top flight would have been keeping an eye on your Falkirks and maybe perhaps Livingston's as well at the tail end of last season?
I'm not sure if they would have done. I think that all gets... Listen, there's so many platforms you can go and look after the season's finished. I think they would have been focused solely on survival and then getting their European spots and whatnot. They'll know exactly what Falkirk done over the season, and Livingston for that matter of fact, because David deserves tremendous credit for what he's done at that club. obviously going back down to that league, everybody thought, oh, they'll just fizzle away. But he recruited well, and I think he'll be more aware of what's needed in the Premiership going up this time. And I think he'll be well equipped to survive that as well.
I've been quite impressed with his recruitment, Davey, and the players that he's managed to bring in.
Yeah, and he's got them in early. He's got them in really early to get them used to the way he does his training and looks after players and his formations. And David doesn't get enough credit for his tactical awareness on the game. And I think having got those players in so early, he'll have enough time to prepare them for what's to come in the future.
Can I ask you about Lennon? Obviously, you're enjoying a well-earned break at the minute, but
yes,
you must have been a proud father watching his performances for Scotland.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was, and I was glad that he made his debut in the home game because it meant I didn't need to go to Liechtenstein. Because for one, I couldn't get time off work. Plus, I think it was a bit of a nightmare to get to. But no, I was delighted for him making his debut in albeit it wasn't a great result for Scotland. But if anything, he comes out it looking quite good because he gets on the ball and just plays the way he plays for Motherwell. He doesn't change the way he plays, and that's a credit to him. A lot of young players would go in and try something different or shy away from it and get caught rabbit in the headlights, but he just goes and he just seems to take everything in his stride, and he's a credit to himself the way he's coped with everything that's happened to him so far.
You can actually see him in Liechtenstein just directing play. He doesn't want the ball, he'll point to where it should go. It's like he's not overwhelmed or fazed by that.
And for me, it's like that's been his progression throughout the years. I've watched him, obviously, being his dad, I've watched every single game nearly that he's played in, and that's how he's played since he was a youngster at Motherwell, since he was at his boys' club, directing things, wanting the ball, understanding. And I said it in an interview before, like, he's been a student in the game for so long. He's watched me at so many clubs, and he's not a kid that would go on his device or go on his iPad and not watch a game. He's sucked into games and he's studied it for so many years, so that's why he has that maturity on the pitch. He understands the game, he's studied it for so many years, he understands where to be at a certain time and the timing of things, the timing of passes, timing of runs, and that's why everybody's saying like he's so mature for his age. He looks as if he's played 500 games in first team. He's only 18, so hopefully long may that continue. But he's thriving just now and just ultimately wants to play football.
How's his summer been, Lee? Obviously, the first time he's played international football, and then you've got all this speculation over his future. And how's it for you as a father as well, almost trying to keep his feet on the ground? I mean, he does that himself, but how's it been for him?
His summer's been good. It's been chilled. Obviously, he was on a high off the bat. It was a great, amazing way to finish the season, having won his awards and then getting his call up and having made his debut and then his first start. Everything's came really, really quickly. But he's not a kid or a man who will let it get taken away with it or let it get to him or affect him on and off the pitch. He's very chilled. You've met Lennon before. He's very chilled in his interviews. He's chilled out in the house. He's a very family orientated boy who has got a really tight knit family. So we wouldn't allow, he wouldn't get carried away, but we wouldn't allow him to do that anyway. But no, he said a chilled out summer. He's been away on holiday and things are just very chilled now, very quiet.
In terms of his future, are you expecting him just to return to Motherwell pre-season shortly, or? Yeah,
he's back to Motherwell on Monday. So nothing's happened as yet. Yes, there's loads of speculation and loads of talk on Twitter, etc. And it's a different club every day. So it's quite funny watching it and how it's progressing. But essentially, nobody's made any bids for him. Yes, he would like to further his career down the line, but we'll just need to wait and see what happens.
Does he or you, other people around about him though, maybe not now, but have big decisions to make about, even if he doesn't leave now, where he does go in the future? Because you see players getting lost in systems down south, you see so many guys thriving abroad. Are there big decisions on the horizon for you guys? Yeah,
I think as a footballer, as a parent of a footballer, there's always massive decisions to make, and Lennon's next move is so important because a lot of players will get sucked into going to just a massive club and going, right, I've arrived, I've went. But there needs to be a lot of thought process, and there has been a lot of thought process of his next move because it's a development move again. because everything so far went to plan. This is what we kind of planned out for him in terms of playing loads of games in the first team, doing really well, and it's on him to do that. There was a pathway there at Motherwell, and the next one for me is important because he has to play, he has to develop, he has to then kick on again, and I think everybody's seen that with Scotland. Once he's round about better players, no disrespect to Motherwell players, but once he's round about top class elite players, he will then kick on again, in my opinion. And I think he has that in a belief, and it's not from an arrogance point of view, it's just a belief, and he wants to play football. He just wants to play football. He's a boy that has loved playing football all his life, and that's just what he wants to do.
Do you think making these decisions in terms of where you go is, you've seen the likes of Scottish boys going over to Italy, does that kind of make it easier? These guys have kind of set the pathway, shown in the way. So maybe in the past it would be Rangers or Celtic would be the big move for players in Scotland, but now actually the world's a big place and you can see players thriving out there. Yes,
I think it is, and it has been done for years, but it's not been as dominant as it has just now. I think was it Henderson that went years ago, and he's had a great career over there, but you don't really hear about that. You've got Gilmore, you've got Ferguson, you've got McTominay, all doing really well, Max Johnson doing well abroad. You've got all these players that are really thriving, but like you say, it's so difficult to go, right, this club are interested, is that a good one for him? Is that a good environment for him to be in? Is there a pathway? Are you going to play there? Is there players ahead of you? There's so many different things that come into the equation. It's not just X clubs interesting you, brilliant, love it, I'll go there kind of thing. There's so many different layers to it, and that, listen, clubs have been after Lennon since he was 14. There's always been talk and people try to take him here, there and everywhere, but we've always had a focus on, no, you'll stay at Motherwell, you'll do your time and you'll see where it takes you from there. So it's exciting times, but it's also really nervous times, and it's like you want to make the right decision, give him the best advice going forward, but ultimately it's his decision at the end of the day.
Because he is such a family guy, would it be hard for him to move abroad, do you think, or do you think he would relish that?
He would relish, yes, he is close with his family and will always be close. So if he did move abroad, he would just go on with it. He's quite a chilled out character. He's got his homely things that he likes, but no, he would be fine. He'd be absolutely fine. He's had a lot to deal with in his life, and he's just took it in his stride and went from strength to strength. So I'm pretty sure he would wherever he goes, he'll then kick on again.
You're trying to urge him to move somewhere sunny?
Yeah, for my tan, that would be nice. That would be nice. No, listen, it could be anywhere. There's loads of clubs interested. Nobody's made an approach as yet this summer, so it's one of those ones to really think about. But we'll just need to wait and see what happens in terms of what's going to be right for him, pros and cons in all the different areas.
What was the emotions like when you saw him run out of Hampden?
Oh, mad. Aye, like, I can't even put it into words. Like, Lennon's always wanted to play for his country, and I've took him to games over the years, and having seen him made his debut for the under-15s, I think it was, when he scored the goal for the halfway line. From there, right the way up, I think is it 3 years, 4 years maybe, from that day to then make his international debut is like, it's been a roller coaster journey, but a lot of highs within that, and it was an emotional time, not just for me, his full family involved in it, and it gives me a lump in my throat talking about it, to be honest.
Has your role kind of changed as he's got older and more experienced? You've possibly had to force yourself to take a step back and let him make his own decisions and just be his dad? Yeah,
I don't think it's changed as such. I've always kind of just gave my opinion, myself and my wife, his stepmom Maria. We've always had kind of, and his gran, his uncles and stuff, I've always had a good nucleus there to kind of advise him and speak, not even advise him, speak about different things. Like I would, throughout his first season I would always run scenarios through him. What if thingy came in for you? Would you do this and do that? And just out of curiosity where his head was at, to try and gauge where he is with his career and where he thinks. And it's hard to think because Lennon's confident, but you wonder where. And I always do this with any player. Where could you put him? What club would suit a player? If you see somebody in a game, for instance, this is totally going off track, right? But if you see somebody in a game, you think, where could his next step be? Where could his next move be? So that's no different to me than dealing with my son. with that and trying to give him different scenarios and things, and we just talk about things, potential moves or potential clubs that would be, or where do you see yourself and all that kind of stuff. So it prepares you for if X club come in kind of thing, and I kind of know what his head is at.
Good man.
Next one.